Yeah. Yeah. Three mics, one mission. Real men, real faith. Welcome to Beards, Bibles, and Brotherhood. Beards, Bibles, Brotherhood, yeah, we standing strong. Faith in the fire where the wicked gone. Pastor J bring truth, Pastor James bring flame. Mark in the middle saying Jesus is the name. Iron sharpens iron, yeah, we live in that code. No soft talk here, just a narrow road. Beards, Bibles, Brotherhood, let it be known we don't walk alone. We don't walk alone.
Hey, hello out there, everybody. Welcome to Beards, Bibles, and Brotherhoods. I'm your host, Pastor Jay, with the other host,
Pastor James.
and we have special guests in the studio today as our brother Mark is still out with his wife doing the husbandly duties, battling the good fight against the little C with the big C. And we're praying for him and lifting him up right now. But we're special guests today. You guys can introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Keelan.
How about Travis?
Keelan and Travis. And Keelan and Travis are part of
Redeemed Recovery.
Redeemed Recovery. We're excited about this podcast because we know that there are several of you out there who, one, need this, two, want this, and three, if you don't need it, you know somebody who does need it.
That's right.
Because recovery touches a lot of people. A lot of people. So if you're not familiar with what we're doing, we're launching a recovery ministry, and Keelan and Trav will be running that out of Renewal Ranch at 6:30.
It's 6:30 on Fridays.
6:30 on Fridays. So instead of when you're getting that itch to go out and do something you shouldn't do, instead go get some help. That's a great time. I like that time. When I first started ministry, I worked with young adults, and we met on Thursday nights because what was really big in our area was Thursday. That's baby Rome in the studio. If you hear,
Yeah.
it's not Travis complaining over there. That's baby Rome. She wants to be on the mic, but she's working on it.
She just learned how to say doggy, so you don't hear
So
doggy.
she sees some dogs running around. She's excited. Yeah, we're coming to you today from the fifth generation homestead out in Nichols. So we've switched locations for a cast. But so we had our young adult night on Thursday because in our town there was Big Thirsty Thursday where you could get like half price beers and stuff. So we wanted to counter that. It's pretty successful. It's a
It
good
still
idea.
exists here, not so much in Owego, but in like the college areas.
Well, Friday nights are big nights to go out. It's usually when people get off the work for the weekend and they're battling the urge to go back to the old life. So they have to decide.
That was always one of my triggers. Like you have a stressful week and you know you've got the weekend off and you just hated everything about your life for that week. That's a perfect time to go and get a bunch of alcohol and you don't have any responsibilities the next day. But if you're trying to get out of that life and you need support, you need community, that's also a great time to meet with people.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Keelan, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I grew up in the area-ish, around the area. I was in Ithaca, Binghamton, Endicott, and both of my parents had drug and alcohol issues. I bounced back and forth from my parents' houses to my grandparents' houses to my other grandparents' houses, and then by the time I was in high school, I was mostly living with friends. All the way for freshman year, I was with one friend from freshman and sophomore year, and then I was with another friend for junior and senior year. I started using drugs and drinking when I was very young. It was pretty normal. Anytime I would go hang out with my dad, it was normal. He would give me wine. He would give me some drinks. It wasn't a big thing. I started drinking heavily by the time I was 12. I
Wait,
Ten-
did you say 12?
12.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is normal with your family.
Was normal with my family. And looking at it now, I'm 28 now. I spent more time in my life drinking than I didn't.
Wow.
I'm hoping to balance that number back out because I've stopped now. So hopefully,
Swing it the other direction.
yeah. But that was one of the hardest things for me when I first started to try to get into recovery. Was I realized that that was really the only thing I've known. I don't know how many things you guys can think of like before 12, but I can't think of many. So most of my memory is involved drinking, involved doing drugs. Um, Pretty much everything I was used to involved that. And then I got pretty heavy into opiates by the time I was 16. I had a foot surgery, and it was right before they started cracking down on opiates. So they prescribed me a pretty ridiculous amount of pills post surgery with multiple refills. And after that, it was just something that became normal for me as well. Um, I would even like I'd go out and party, but I'd take a few pills with my first beer, and then I'd go.
Oh,
it just
when you
started.
mix them.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So I would. That was how I went about my nights. That was normal, and then I got into the bar business, the bar and restaurant business. So I started working in nightlife, and then I did that until about 8 months ago. But
When I made her feel bad.
yeah,
Uh-oh.
yeah. Well,
I'm just kidding. She's like, oh man, I better get out of this business.
well, you know what? You know what?
Jesus made you feel bad.
Yeah. Well, I made me feel bad
Yeah.
too. So really, I made me feel bad. Jesus made me feel better, but yeah. So I did that forever. I worked in nightlife. Where it was acceptable for me to be plastered at work. I was like, this is the best. Like, this is the best gig I could possibly get. I can go to work and nobody cares if I drink at work. I'm not going to get fired. It's fine. It's acceptable. And so I was just doing that, and that's all I was doing. I for a long time convinced myself everything was fine. My parents were they were never able to really hold a job. They, were non-functional addicts, quote unquote. And because I was functional and I was able to hold a job and I did really well in school and I was involved in other stuff, I was even involved in like community outreach. I used to volunteer. I used to do a lot of different things, even while I was doing all of that. So in my head, I wasn't like my parents. I wasn't like other addicts. I was fine. And
I think Trav's gonna have to punch out for a minute.
maybe we can switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But and so in my head I was fine because I was doing things that other addicts weren't doing, at least when I saw them.
So somebody who's listening to this sounds like you were living a pretty awesome life. So why would you want to quit?
Well, so it's not like it was always awesome. The friends I was picking, obviously, when you are actively using drugs and alcohol all the time, you are friends with people who are actively using drugs and alcohol all the time. That's the only way that it's acceptable. That's the only way it's normal. When I would hang out with my friends that didn't do that, there was always concern. There was conversations about it that I didn't want to have. So I avoided that. But in having only friendships with other alcoholics and drug addicts, a lot of my close friends, a lot of my family relationships were severely strained. Lots of fights, lots of resentment, lots of anger. So, when you're not in your right state of mind all the time or ever, like you're not having good conversations with people. You're not, I don't know. Yeah, you're just, it's not good.
Yeah.
So none of that was good.
Well, and it's cyclical, right? Like
Yeah.
you drink to get away from the stress, which causes more stress. So you drink more. So you get more stress. So you drink more.
Yeah. And for me, it wasn't even stress. There was a lot of pain for me, more than anything. Because I was so back and forth with my parents and everything else. I never had a good relationship with my mother. I still don't. I don't talk to her, even now. And my dad, I was always close with. but he was one of the reasons I first started realizing it was a problem. We would have these really deep conversations, these really deep talks, and um, it wasn't something I realized until later, till he passed. But I'll get to that later. It wasn't until after that, and I had started trying to do AA and NA, that I realized we had a lot in common, and that a lot of the conversations we had used to just absolutely tear me apart when we were really vulnerable, when we would be really drunk or really whatever, and we'd sit down and we'd really talk about it. He had so much shame and he had so much guilt, and it was so hard, um, to be in those spaces with him because I loved him so much, and he was such a great guy, just had so many problems. So that was always really hard. My aunt, when I was 16, was murdered by her boyfriend, who I was really close with, and her two kids, who were more like brothers to me. Also, I spent a lot of time with them because I wasn't really at home. So I spent a lot of time in their home with their family, and um, I had a rough relationship. Because I was also living with my grandparents. My grandparents are the one who raised my parents, and my parents had a lot of problems. So you can imagine that they had a lot of problems. So home wasn't great. So less about stress for me, and more about just trying to get away from all of that. I didn't want to be
I
in
don't
any
know.
of
That
it.
sounds stressful to me.
I guess, yeah. I
It-
guess for me, I was more stuck in hurt though. It didn't feel like stress at the time. It felt like hurt.
Pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we drink or we use to try to escape those things, and we never really heal when we're doing that. So you just keep stacking more things in life. Like when you're talking about your dad, he obviously had a lot of things that it would have been great in life if he could have been delivered from that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
when you're just escaping and you're not facing and you're not healing,
Well, it's also like not only are you not healing and you're not facing the problems that like you're using to deal with, you're creating new problems on top of that because you're acting like a fool all the time and making things worse for yourself with other people, with you're straining more relationships. I wasn't a good person. Like, I didn't treat the people in my life good, so then I would stack that guilt on top of all the other pain, and then you have more shame and more guilt, and then as soon as you're sober for a second, so then you use even more too, and it just gets worse and worse.
Trav, how about you?
Yeah, so I grew up in Owego, with a pretty stable home life, two parents at home, like regular nuclear family. My dad worked, my mom stayed at home. Older sister, was into sports, was into academics, and then once I got into high school, I had broke my back playing football, so I fractured my L4, which took me out for the season. I was a musician too, so I played the drums for a really long time as well. So I, was doing pretty good, until that happened, and so broke my back. Um, which the whole process of that, I had kind of started to treat my back pain with painkillers from my sister's wisdom teeth removal from like 3 years prior that she had laying in a desk. So I was playing football for about 8 weeks with a broken back until I finally was in a game, took a cut to make a hit, fell like flat on my face, and so finally they sent me for an X-ray and I had a fracture. But so I was using that. I was drinking as well, and then throughout that course of me recovering from my back injury, I had a very close friend pass away unexpectedly from a brain aneurysm, um, and then I also had a couple other family members pass as well, and so I was drinking pretty heavily. Then following that, was COVID for me during school, so everything was shut down. Was isolated at home. Parents were super strict about it. There was like after I think it was 5 or 6 months, I had like one friend that I was able to go and see. But of course, we were like sneaking out on the weekends and going to parties and stuff like that without my parents knowing. And so that kind of started the track of the alcohol addiction. Um, and that kind of carried on until until about 5 months ago. But through high school, graduated, and then I took a gap year. Was working at a gym for about a year with pretty manipulative boss, and me and my coworkers would drive into the parking lot at 5 a.m. and take a bunch of shooters, and then go to work hammered, just to get through the day because we all hated our job. And then finally, I was in the process of buying a house at 18, and was working that job that I hated, and kind of had like a bit of a mental breakdown at one point, and I quit my job, and I had ghosted my girlfriend at the time, just completely didn't, no closure for her, just like stopped talking to her, and I drove down to Florida. Me and my buddy quit our jobs and drove to Florida. Um, Stayed down there for about 2 years, and down there I was drinking even heavier because now I was a 18-year-old by myself in an area that didn't really care about IDs with a fake ID as well. So I was drinking pretty much every day while I was trying to build a nutrition coaching business. Was horrible with my finances as well, so I kind of burned through all my money, developed an even worse drinking problem, ended up having to move back home with my parents, and started another job that I hated. Started that job, and was gone for like 13, 14 hours a day, not making good money, still drinking whenever I could. And then me and Keelan met.
I was his boss.
She was my boss.
And he hated his job.
Huh?
And he hated his job.
No.
This was the other.
He
Yeah, this
hated-
was a different
he
job.
was working as a lineman for a minute.
Yep.
And but he got a part-time job at the bar that I was
Mhm.
managing, and that's where I met him.
Yep, I was working security and bar backing.
Yeah.
So, and then so we started dating. But we were still drinking pretty much every time we were together. Anytime we were at the bar. So I was working full time at that job that I strongly disliked, and eventually she convinced me to quit there, and go work at the bar semi full time. That was like all I was doing was work, like for income, was working at the bar.
Yeah.
And now look at you two.
And now look at us, yeah.
And I got a baby.
So tell me,
Sober.
tell the listeners, what was your turning point, Key?
Well, my turning point. Well, so, Travis was familiar with the church. I wasn't, and he had started talking about how he really wanted to go back, and he had mentioned it a bunch of times. It started off as in passing, and then it started coming up more and more. And I was also frustrated with him. We were drinking, we were a mess, we were fighting every time we were drinking, and I was like, okay, yeah, like he needs church, you need church, so we'll go to church. And and so I was like, if you're telling me that's gonna make you more bearable, then let's go do it. And so we went there for him, not for me. And from the first service we went, I mean, I was a wreck emotionally. Like, I couldn't get out of the church fast enough to go cry in the car for like the first 3 or 4 services that we went. And even after the first service, then it was me saying, because he would even say like, oh, well, we don't need to go this week. And I'd be like, we're going. I was like, I don't know what's going on necessarily. I don't know what's happening. I was like, but we're going to go again. We need to go back. And so when we've been going ever since. I went to one church. I drank one time after I had my daughter. That was the longest I had ever been able to stay sober, is when I was pregnant with her. And I came to service one time hungover on August 24th, and I never drank again after that. That church service, I felt like I was completely delivered. I was still working at the bar, and after that point, just because I wasn't in a financial position to quit at the time, but I something changed, like something switched. I I couldn't explain it. It wasn't I when I when I really think about it now, and it's crazy because now it feels normal and it hasn't even been that long. But when I think about the fact that I was able to, after that day, go back and work in the bar and not have even the slightest inclination to take a drink,
Mm.
I didn't care. I didn't want it. I
We
didn't.
call him the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. But I to think that though, if I were to even look back a year ago, and if I were to tell myself, "Hey, you're gonna wake up one day and you're not gonna want to drink anymore," I would never, ever have believed it, and I wouldn't have thought it could have been that easy. Not that it was easy. I those like 3-4 weeks I spent in some of the greatest emotional turmoil I've ever felt in my life, and but I don't know. It's incredible. It's unexplainable. It's not. You can't put words to it unless you've experienced something like it. It's not anything that I could ever explain with words. Really, it's a feeling. It's a
So, Trav, what was it like watching her go through that?
It was it was pretty incredible because we went from having arguments about Christianity together, where I was trying to defend Christianity without actually living like
Mm.
I wasn't living a Christ-centered life, but trying to defend it to somebody who was an atheist, and then to have her drag me to church and then watch the Holy Spirit really work on her in an incredible way was pretty awesome. And yeah um, and same thing for me, but mine was a little bit different. I still struggle with the alcohol um for probably about a month or so.
yeah, for a
Yeah.
while longer. I do
Yeah.
think I in hearing other people's stories, other people's testimony, I don't think that's how it always happens. I mean, I don't think that it's that easy for everybody, cuz I mean, there's things I've asked God to remove from my life since then, and they're not going away as easy as the drinking. So, but
Yeah,
I
we don't
think
want people to think it's a magic
no,
pill.
it's
No.
not.
Oh,
It's
if
not.
you
But
come here, we're
but
gonna
it-
get you saved.
but
Right.
it can be. I think it depends on what the issue is and what God sees as the most important thing for you at that time. Because I think for me, and I felt it, it was like I could feel it was at that church service. I was like, if I don't change something, like it is this or I'm going to die. Like I'm going to die this way. And I think that that's why it happened so quickly for me. I think that that was quite literally my only option. I don't think I had another choice, and I think that I my life would have ended had I not had that change. So I think that's why it happened for me the way that it happened for me. And now all these other things I'm asking God to remove from my life, they're not going to kill me, or
Yeah.
at least I don't think so. But
I think that's really theologically profound. Like when we let the Holy Spirit lead, He knows what we need to deal with. He knows what He needs to heal. And it's not always the same. Like we're not all some cookie cutter assembly line of Christians that if you just follow one step, two step, like
right,
the 12-step program helps us face these things. But for some people, the bigger issue might be I have grief from friends and family members dying, and that needs to heal before I'm going to get deliverance from the substance. For other people, it
Right.
may be the substance that needs to go first. That's why the relationship with Jesus is far more important.
yeah, no, I truly feel like I said, I don't think it could have happened for me in any other order. I don't think it would have worked out for me the same way.
I think for me, when I was using a lot and drinking a lot, it was always in a need to be like the center of attention. So like God had to deal with that first. He had to deal with my like insecurities, And once he dealt with that, it was actually not that difficult to let him have other things.
That's kind of how my experience was too, because I don't think my drinking was necessarily like you said, a life or death situation, but he had to work on me in other ways, like my ego and my pride, and like, because I would drink because I was not able to have any social interaction with large groups of people. Like, I had to drink or else I couldn't talk to people, um, in larger settings. But like, I remember for the first like month or so we were there, every time you would do an altar call, I would sit there in the pews trembling because I knew I was supposed to go up there, and I couldn't pull myself to do it because of my ego and my pride that didn't want me to surrender to a higher power. And finally there was one day where I just didn't even feel like
I can remember.
Yeah.
I remember you coming up. I was
Yeah.
like, there he goes.
Yeah, I was bawling my eyes out at the altar,
Well-
and just it didn't even feel like my own legs were moving. Like,
What's-
you know what I mean?
What's funny about it is, because I've heard you preach for a while now, is that in those weeks you were more insistent about there being people that needed to come up and weren't coming up, and you knew there was people that needed to
Yeah.
come up and weren't coming up. That's not to say like you haven't said that other times, but it was really pointed at
It
the
did.
time.
It felt like
it
I was
was
sitting in the pews with nobody else there, and you
Yeah.
were staring at me and saying, "Come to the altar." You know what I mean? In that type of
It's
not
interesting because
literally,
I
but
say it a lot.
You do.
You just
Yeah.
probably hear it less now because you're praying for someone else there,
right.
Yeah.
or you're looking for that person. I mean, there's some telltale signs. I can give away some pastor secrets. When you're squirming in your seat,
Get up and go to the bathroom at the altar call time.
dodging the Holy
That was
Spirit.
me. That was me every time, because I would be crying, and then I
Mm-hmm.
would get myself together enough to go back in, and then I would be like, "We need to get out of here. Let's go. Let's go." We get in the
Yeah, those
car.
are the couples. I'm like, well, there they go.
Yeah.
But that's what happened to me, right? I mean, I was pacing the back room. I was sweating. I was angry. I felt like the pastor was looking at me. I felt like, it was all the things that were convincing me not to go up, right? I mean, it's what's going to keep a lot of people from coming to recovery is they're going to be challenged by their own inadequacy or awkwardness of being in a large group, right?
Right.
Coming into a new setting. Oh, I can't go there. I don't know anybody there, right? There's a million reasons why AA and NA take a long time. And the most effective way to get someone to AA and NA is also the most effective way to get someone to our recovery. Bring them.
I was just having flashbacks to like my first AA meeting, and I started going to AA after I was living in Texas, and I had crashed my car on the side of the highway in the middle of the night. Somehow, miraculously, didn't die. No cops ever came by. My car was a mess. I was a mess. I drove home, and was like, maybe I have a problem.
Maybe.
maybe. And then my sponsor, after I got to AA, continued to tell me how much of a problem I had every single day, which was helpful. But I was so stuck on the first step. Those first 3 steps, the longest I was able to stay sober through AA and NA was 3 months. Without God, it didn't work for me. But I had no understanding. I couldn't comprehend it at all, and I was making no headway. And that's not to say, like, honestly, most of the people in the place that I was living too, I was in El Paso, Texas, which is a border town. It's like 75% Hispanic, and the culture there was very Christian. They like everyone there believed, and everyone in my AA group, they didn't really talk about a higher power. They did talk about God, but I didn't know God, and I was the stubborn one who was like, yeah, higher power, like whatever that is. And so,
well, it's funny because some of the time that we get this idea in our head that if I just cut back, right? Like, I'm not really an addict, but if I cut back, like, it's probably going to be healthy for me. I remember I was like, instead of drinking 30 beers tonight,
Maybe 15.
15 and only 1 Vicodin.
Right.
And that'll get me. Then I'm functioning. I can still do everything I need to do. And if I'm doing everything I need to do, and I have this little thing that hangs out, I'll really be mastering it. It doesn't master me.
Right.
Right. And there are probably more functional alcoholics and drug addicts than you can imagine.
Yeah.
Like somebody listening to this podcast is a functional alcoholic or drug addict.
Right.
Like they've got it under control now. And that's the problem. That season only lasts so long.
Right.
And
That's because the problem is deeper. Like even sobriety isn't the end goal.
right.
No.
Like,
No, you need
I
to
had
heal.
a similar experience to Keelan, except I wasn't in church. Like I was drunk in my backyard, had grown up in church. Jesus showed up in the middle of the night and I got saved all alone, puking all over my backyard, and woke up the next day and never drank again. But I was still a train wreck. I was emotionally a mess. I was a horrible husband, a horrible father. I had all kinds of baggage from my old life that I didn't know how to deal with. And those were things that if I was going to have peace, if I was going to experience some joy in life and put my family back together or have God put my family back together, Jesus had to deal with those things and I had to heal.
And that's why having a community is important too, because anytime that I stopped drinking and using drugs, it was immediately replaced by some other bad habit. I personally love to shop every time I get sober. I would go spend way too much money.
Behave, Trav.
I would go spend way too much money. I was, and then I would convince myself that wasn't a problem because I'm like, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing drugs, like it's not an issue. And then, I would,
it's like another addiction.
yeah, and then I would smoke cigarettes like a chimney, and like it was just like one trade off for another, and it was never ending. So that was. It's important to have people that can be like, hey, you're actually doing the same thing, just with something else.
So you guys tell me a little bit about, so James and I have ran, I've been in recovery since 2018. So I like to tell people I recovered in 2018 and I've been aware that it's trying to come back since then. Right. So I don't live in quote unquote in recovery. I'm recovered because God set me free and delivered me. But I'm aware that Satan would use that in a heartbeat, right? So tell me about you guys' philosophy. I'm on the street. I don't know Jesus. I don't really care about Jesus. But I hear about this thing in Owego. It's close to home. I'm going to come by. What's your philosophy on encountering somebody who just walks in off the street?
For me, I think the most important thing is that they're there. As someone who did not always believe, was not raised in the church, and was actively off-put by people who I thought talked about it too much, people that I thought were crazy, Bible thumping, I don't know. I think that because of that, I have a really good discernment about when it's appropriate for them to try and talk to them about Jesus. I think the most important thing is that they're there. I think if I see someone who I know is going to be turned off by someone who is speaking super intentionally about Christ, as opposed to someone who is implying it maybe, not saying it so in their face, just getting them to stay without realizing that Jesus is who's making them stay.
Right. I got you. So if I'm part of your recovery program and I screw up, am I out, like kicked out? I gotta go.
No,
No.
of course not. That's part of the healing process. That's part of the recovery process. It
doesn't have to be though.
doesn't have to
but
be.
it doesn't have
It can
to
be overnight, like how you had, but it could take people,
right.
Years. My thing with that, I guess my perspective is like you almost have to understand that the enemy is going to work against somebody in that position extremely hard, right? And so our job is to almost trick the enemy that's living inside them in a way where, we don't go, I don't know how to say this without it sounding weird, but like on a first interaction, if all you're doing is proclaiming Jesus to them, super hard and religion, I feel like those demons that are working inside them are going to be really repelled by it. So there has to be a threshold where, it's still presented, but it's not to the point where it completely drives them away.
I
Also.
think the ministry has got to look like Jesus,
Yes.
not just proclaim Jesus.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like if Christ is loving, if Christ is compassionate, if he is the Savior who doesn't break bent reeds or snuff out smoking flax, if he sees people in their broken places and tries to lift them up, the ministry has to do that too. If you see somebody who comes in who's hurting, who's angry at God, angry at the world, has nobody in their life, has no place to live, doesn't have food, it's not always compassionate to just throw all their problems in their face. To have a place to come and talk about what you're going through in life, to have other people care, listen to you, support you, walk with you, and then bring it around to the place that, hey, Jesus wants to help, it is probably a whole lot more effective than just confronting somebody in their shame, in their pain, and just saying, hey, if you will just pray, all your problems will go away.
Right. And I think if you were to actually look at it, like I don't think there's a person who is actually against Jesus. Like
Mhm.
if it was always actually just about how he walked, how he lived, what he did, there's not a single person in their right mind that would be against any of that. I mean, we all want love and kindness, and I think that if that's the first way you can present Jesus to someone is through your actions, not
Mhm.
necessarily your words, and they feel it, then it's so much easier for them to hear it.
There's this old recovery saying, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Mm.
I
Mhm.
hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that phrase. Right? Because what that says to someone is at your very core, you're struggling with something that I've identified as disgusting, but I'll be nice to you.
Right.
Don't be nice. Don't what? No,
It's like-
thank you.
It's more like tolerance than
Right,
anything.
like,
It's
no,
I'll
thank you.
tolerate you,
Yeah, no,
as
thank
opposed
you.
to being compassionate.
When I
towards
come in and
somebody.
I'm an addict and I'm broken, I want you to be able to climb into the brokenness with me
Mhm.
and love me through it.
Right.
Right? Like, because the reality is alcoholism isn't going away.
Right.
Right? We're not going to go out today and just make a phone call and be like, you know what? No more alcohol. And it just disappears. And, drugs, opiates, all those things, they're not going away.
No.
So this person is literally going to be fighting this the rest of their life, or they're going to have access to it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, what our goal is, I think what our goal is, I know what our goal is because I know the two of you are and you're amazing. And James as well. But what I know our goal is to give you authority over those things.
Yeah.
And that authority can only be given by Jesus. Right? We can't do it for you, but we can lead you to the one who can.
Right.
And there's something so freeing, Key, I'm with you. There's something so freeing about the first time somebody cracks a beer right next to you and you go, yeah, I don't need that.
Yeah. I was crying in my place of work because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then fast forward to a few months later, me and some of my friends decided to just go out to dance, to hang out, to have fun. I felt no reason to drink. And funny enough, my friends ended up not drinking that night either. And we were sitting in the bar at 2:00 in the morning, talking about God, talking about Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's where our night went. And it was one of the most fun nights I've had in a while. Like, we went out and we had a great time. It was a blast, actually.
It's funny when you get to the place, and I want this for so many people. Like, the evangelist in me wants it for so many people. I just want them to get to the place where they get to the reality of the truth that they don't need sin. They don't need the things that they think they can't live without. And, it's why it's funny. People say a lot of things about me, surprisingly. It might shock you. But I've gotten to the place where I don't need to acknowledge things that aren't from the Lord, because they're just there to try to tear me down, deter me, or pull me away from the mission. Right? So I can just be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, cool.
But that's, I mean, mainly because you feel a fulfillment from the Lord that nothing else in the world can give you.
Right.
As well.
The,
You know.
the
Yeah,
devil's favorite way to try to get me is, and it doesn't, it's not like I want to drink, but the favorite, the little whispering in my ear is always, wasn't that so much fun? Do you remember how much fun you used to have? Do you remember, like, it used to be so much fun. You used to have such a great time. Like, I, and I mean, like I said, it's a thought and it's gone, but it's like, that's the one for me. But that always used to be my thing. Whenever I was in recovery, it was, you used to have such a good time. It was so much fun. You don't have fun anymore. It was you.
I was talking to my therapist because everyone needs one.
Yeah.
And James encouraged me to get one. But I was talking to my therapist, and I was talking about, and he asked me the question. This is a military guy, VA, right? So he doesn't really care. He could give 2 licks if you drink or not. That's not like whatever, right? Like everybody in the military drinks pretty much. So he's like, "So why'd you quit drinking?" And I didn't really answer the question. I kind of just, I was like, "Well, there's a lot to that question." And then we went on and we talked about my life. He's psychoanalyzing my life. And I'm talking about multiple fights, getting punched in the face, getting teeth knocked out, knocking people's teeth out, waking up in jail, getting arrested, these things that were happening all around me. Guys almost stabbing me almost poking a guy's eye out once, just crazy fights, all these crazy things. And he's like, "Dude, you've got some hostility in you." And I go, "Oh yeah, that's why I quit drinking." All those stories happened drunk.
Yeah.
None of them happened when I was like, "Hey, you know what? I'm just sober today, hanging out at my house."
Yeah.
So for me, I could link it to just about every bad thing in my life
Right.
was linked to one of my addictions.
Yeah. I think my Erica and I, when I quit drinking, had a very similar conversation about fun. Like, I distinctly remember the day that I had been sober for about 5 months. Erica was newly 21 years old in Savannah, Georgia, and everybody we knew was going downtown drinking every night. And she said to me, "You're 24. You act like you're 40. This isn't fun anymore." And within 2 or 3 weeks, our marriage was at the closest we ever came to divorce. And she came to Christ not long after that. She quit drinking, and 6 months later, we had basically a relationship where I actually enjoyed coming home and hanging out with my family, as opposed to we had to have alcohol to even function as a husband and wife. We lost Keelan.
We lost her.
Yeah.
She's babying. But yeah, it's wild that it's not a new trick if you think about it, right? What did Satan say in the garden? He said, did he really say that?
Yeah.
God just doesn't want you to have fun. Right? I mean, that's essentially what he said.
Right.
He doesn't want you to know the truth, how good it is, how much stuff you can do. Right? I mean, that's all he sold. And he's been selling that lie ever since. Oh, God's keeping something from you.
Right.
You need that drug. You need that alcohol. And I've seen people do really, really good for a long stretch. And they slip back into it and they think that, all the shame comes. And the shame basically calls you a liar, calls you a fake, calls you,
Hypocrite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tells you that you've lost the battle. So you might as well just go back to it. If you guys could be in studio with me right now, I have the world's cutest baby staring at me. But whenever I touch her, she screams. So she likes me from a distance.
Same.
I think it's the beards.
It might be.
Hey, speaking of, I was promised a beard.
Oh yeah,
Well,
you're
we
gonna
have
be
it.
in a beard here in a
Yeah.
second.
Oh,
We're almost there. What do you guys want people to know that makes what's going to make our recovery different?
I-
you wanna start?
Sure. Yeah. I think, mainly our goal is to not be so over centralized and so rigid that, it's uncompassionate and not human. we don't want it to be, we don't want it to really be a copycat of anything else. We want a system that's more free of expression and more compassionate and more hands-on than a lot of other programs are.
So I'm welcome there if I'm in active addiction.
Of course.
You're welcome there if you're in active addiction. You're welcome there if you're not in active addiction. You're welcome if you've been sober for 22 years and you think you have something to learn. You're allowed if you think you have a problem. If you're not sure if you have a problem.
Not
Yeah.
only that, we're going to be expanding a lot more than just
Addiction, yeah.
more than addiction. It's going to be grief and
Grief, any eating disorders. There's more and more to branch off of too. So if people are interested and there's something that you think you can apply the 12 steps to also, it doesn't even have to be something that we have. If you think the 12 steps apply, and let me tell you, they can apply to almost anything. You can let us know, and we can, if there's enough people that.
And we'd love you
wanna
if
talk
you're
about
a
it.
local area leader. Maybe you're part of another church. Your church doesn't have a recovery ministry, but you've always been interested in it. Come down and meet our leadership team. We would love to work with you. This is not a you have to have the R stamped on you in order to be part of it.
Also a big one is divorce too.
Yeah.
Divorce one. So
Yeah. And we're looking for leaders in all these areas: divorce care, grief, eating disorders, things like that. Like, hey, if you've got a story where Christ has helped you get to the other side of it and you know that he's the answer, but you also have compassion for human beings and compassion to love on people. I think showing compassion and helping someone to sobriety might be the most important thing we're asking you to bring. And if along the way we can introduce you to Jesus, it's even going to be better, right?
Yeah.
But if you're already out there, maybe you belong to one of the local churches and you guys don't have a recovery program. This is not exclusive. This is for our community. And if you believe in Jesus, great. If you don't, that's okay too. If you need to come in there and challenge the side that says faith is even important, we're here. Come in. If you're a Muslim who's struggling with addiction, we want to help you overcome that addiction. If you're from, out of the area and you don't have something local, and you can make it down to Owego, we're inviting you down at 6:30 on Fridays. It's an open meeting. You can come in. We don't make you stand up and say your name, right?
no, you
No.
don't have to. And
You don't have to pray.
no, you don't have to pray. And we are slightly more casual than your traditional meeting, I would say. So there will be time for you to talk if you want. You don't have to. No one's going to force you to. You can just come listen as well. But it might be more like sitting in your living room talking with some friends than what you would see at a traditional AA
Awesome.
or anything.
That's awesome. We're basically inviting you to be part of our family. That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping that if you're out there and you're alone and you're looking for something to fill a Friday night besides an addiction of any kind, let us be a place where you can come and find help and hope, because that's what we're about. We're about help, hope, and healing. And we want to see Christ move in this community and the lives of everyone who gets to experience some of the things that all four of us sitting at this table have experienced, the Holy Spirit setting us free from the things that tried to kill us.
Yeah.
So there's at least 4 people here that can testify to the goodness of our God. And wherever you are, whoever you are, please know God loves you. He sees you. You're not in the battle alone. You may feel alone. Don't go desperate. Don't give in to that darkness. Don't do something to hurt yourself or hurt others. Reach out for help. We're here to walk with you, encourage you, and support you. This has been the Beards, Bibles, and Brotherhood podcast, and we've been joined by our recovery crew as we launch our recovery at Redeemed Recovery, and we're excited about just the opportunity to reach into the community and love you, and we pray we see you. So from all of us here to all of you out there, go in peace.
You are loved.
Pastor J got the word, cut clean like a blade, break chains off men that the enemy made. Pastor James got fire, yeah, he don't play safe. Call sin what it is, put it right in this place. Mark in the trenches, yeah, he been through the storm, trying to the fire where the wicked gone. Pastor J bring truth, Pastor J bring flame. Walk in the middle saying Jesus is the name. Iron sharpens iron, yeah, we live in that code. No soft talk here, just a narrow road. It's Bible's Brotherhood.